Did that just happen? What an absolutely incredible Premier League weekend. Hello, I'm the Irish guy. This is the Prem Catch-Up. Let's see what happened in every game. This had season-defining consequences. Arsenal 0, West Ham 1. Congratulations, Arsenal. I mean it. The season is over. Should we all go home now? See, Mikel Arteta? See what happens when you don't buy a striker in January? Every person needed an Arsenal win on Saturday afternoon to make the Premier League season interesting. They absolutely needed to be Graham Potter's West Ham to mount the pressure on Liverpool's shoulders in the title race. Instead, they stupidly lose, and the gap is now 11 points. Sure, Arsenal have a game in hand, but honestly, so they can't score. And what do you expect when you have to stuff Mikel Merino up top as a striker all game long? I mean, when he's getting a start as the main centre forward, ahead of Raheem Sterling, who is 20th in the all-time Premier League goal-scoring charts, when he is now getting reduced to just 9-minute cameos off the bench during an astonishing injury crisis up top, that is insane. He's got 20 more Premier League goals than actual Ronaldo. Arsenal have only ever had one player at the club who has had more Premier League goals than Raheem Sterling currently has. Thierry Henry. And that was a long time ago. It's so long since they had him in their team that he's now reduced to nutmegging KSI and trying to score past Fogden. Other than Henry, the Gunners have never, ever had another player who has 120 plus goals in this league. Not even Van Persie. And yet he can't get a start? That is crazy. Miles Lewis-Skelly's been sent off again, and this time it's stuck. The amount of nationwide fame he would have soaked up after everybody was squealing about his red card against Wolves last month. I mean, sure, it wasn't a red, it was a yellow. But the way people went on and on about it, you'd swear the referee had just burned down Skelly's house. Because Lewis Skelly had that red card rescinded after the whole of England jumped to his defense, he probably now felt untouchable. I mean, let's not forget that what he did at Wolves was commit a lazy challenge. Come on, he was on the edge of the opposition's box. Matt Doherty is leading the counter-attack. I repeat, Matt Doherty, a 33-year-old fullback who these days looks slower than Winnie the Pooh. I mean, the reason he never made it under Simeone is because he looks like somebody who snacks on quavers and donuts when no one's looking. He's the Irish Homer Simpson, and so Lewis Skelly, instead of relying on his cardio and motoring after someone 15 years older than him, he instead commits a lazy trip when he could have just defended the situation by running. Same thing happens here, except this time, he really is the last man. He clumsily loses possession to Mohamed Kudus, and then because he came out looking like the good guy hero the last time he did this, oh yeah, he tries to get himself out of trouble by yanking Kudus down by his shorts. I'm sorry, you're not my uncle at a barbecue, mate. This is lazy defending. This was all your own doing. That red card was stupid. That was the actions of somebody who got away with this before. That was silly from Skelly, and he needs to cut that lazy defending out of his game. Oh, why do I get the feeling that he sneakily trips over grandmas and Morrisons when they're burying down in the last box of Cocoa Pops? But yes, thank you, Arsenal. You could not score against a defense made up of a 35-year-old Aaron Cresswell and a 19-year-old Oliver Scarles. Who or what is an Oliver Scarles? He sounds like something off Pirates of the Caribbean. Arsenal, you have royally messed this up. Southampton 0, Brighton 4. Lads, play the clip.
Southampton versus Brighton. Southampton literally concede like 3 goals a game, so I'm gonna give this like a 4-0 to Brighton.
Honestly, lads, this game will be close. And if it's not, okay, if Southampton lose by 4 goals or more, like Mackwell just suggested, then I will drink a litre of gone-off milk.
Yeah. Mackwell got this bang on, and he just casually flung this one out there as if he was predicting something really unlikely to happen, like that Bruce Willis would have a crunchy nut for tea, or that the fellow who played Ron Weasley is going to get eaten by a dinosaur. But no, he has successfully predicted a 4-0 away win in the Premier League. Congrats, Mac! That is the largest scoreline someone has successfully predicted so far this season. Are you a wizard? For that, you probably deserve a free cheeseburger. As for me, because the Saints are worse at football than I am sewing jumpers, then I guess this is my meal today.
Get me some water, quick!
Christ, that's weird. To be fair, I did get 44 points. Mackwell only got 34. Despite getting its monster 4-0 right, it's still mid-table mediocrity for you, buddy. So who's the real winner, huh? probably gonna get sick. I foolishly thought this would be some sort of South Coast derby for Southampton, and that the players might actually raise their games, because Southampton have only actually played Portsmouth 4 times since 2005. I thought they might actually be starved of a derby. And yes, despite being the current worst Premier League team on paper, they might actually try and put in a bit of effort. I mean, it's quite ironic this club will be waiting so long for a derby, right? But right now, they are the new derby. 4-0, 4-0, 4-0. This is just a repeat of Sheffield United last season, when they would get taken to pieces regularly at home and get thumped by 4 or 5. Southampton are also atrocious. All that's missing from this season is another 9-0 loss. And at this rate, it's probably on its way in the post. That's one of these sides had lost by 7 goals this month. If you had showed this match to someone who didn't like football, without a shadow of a doubt, they would be telling you the answer must have been Southampton. They must be the ones who got recently slapped 7-0. The fact that it's not, and the fact the answer is actually Brighton, makes about as much sense as if I were to tell you that my mum was born on the moon. Even Juric, I honestly don't know if he manages again after this season. He is not yet 50, and has already been sacked by the same club 3 times. He lasted just 2 months as Roma boss, and now he is getting hockeyed each and every week without fail, showing that he's got the tactical excellence of a squash snail. I don't know why I just said snail, like Sean Connery. The guy looks like a grumpy ice cream van driver. The one who's got more skulls than Calippos in his car. He looks like that creepy guy who only gets on the bus purely to eat the popcorn crumbs off the seats and possibly sniff some old woman's hair. And here he is brazenly sitting there in his Southampton seats and sinking them quickly. It's like if the captain of the Titanic only served to make the flooding worse by weeing on the floor. Everton 2, Man United 2. Harry Maguire is someone that belongs on the Muppets. Honestly, he looks and moves like some goofy sock puppet. Honestly, would you be surprised if he came home after a day of training at Manchester United to squabble with Miss Piggy in his kitchen? How? How is he still playing at the heart of this great club's defense in 2025? He's a clumsy oaf. He is, as proven yet again by this abomination of a first half performance at Goodison Park, where he couldn't deal with Beto. Beto, a 27-year-old Guinea-Bissau centre forward who is having a purple patch, nothing more. He is having a brilliant month. 5 goals in his last 4 league games under David Moyes. Brilliant, but I remember Moyes also getting a tune out of another Everton misfit striker who even had a similar name. Joe. 15 years ago, he got him smacking 5 goals in a month and then went on to stick up European football like a lunchbox filled with gone-off yogurt. Beto, like Joe, is your typical bang-average striker who is having a brilliant 1-month-long purple patch. And yet Beto had Maguire on strings. I don't know what Maguire was trying to do in defending both situations in the box, but you know what, I've given up guessing at this stage. Maguire was done for me forever as a Manchester United centre-back in that calamitous 6-1 defeat to Spurs. Yeah, that was nearly 5 years ago, and yet he's still being wheeled out to play like a cream cheese donut. Look, I'm not sure how Everton didn't win this match. Roaring into a 2-0 lead, they look pretty comfortable all morning. By then, Bruno Fernandes slams in a late free kick, and then Manu Ugarte scores a nice volley to snatch a point. Brilliant recovery for Manchester United to come back from the dead, but in the final minute, Everton win a penalty. I mean, it should have been a penalty, as Ashley Young was having his shirt pulled in the box by De Ligt. But this is where things get really unfair. I don't think Young can ever fall over like a normal person. Someone asked me last week who is the biggest diver in the Premier League, and I thought about it and said, well, he's not anymore, but it used to be Ashley Young. But now he's, 40 years old? And is probably a year or 2 off becoming a granddad? So he ain't in the business of diving anymore. He's a grown-up. In the same way I no longer steal Freddo's or laugh at Joey episodes. But no, he's legitimately being fouled. But again, I don't think Young knows how to collapse like a normal person. I think if you bumped into him in Tesco's, he probably does flop to the floor like a frog having a seizure. All his limbs go loose, and he just topples over in such a cartoon way. That's what he did on Saturday morning, and because of this, because he dives so fake, VAR said no. This is someone who used to dive for Manchester United all the time. I mean, Roy Keane said he was a disgrace, and that if he was a Manchester United player, then he was Chinese. So are you telling me that he was punished because of his reputation? Are you telling me that Manchester United get away with it this weekend because they are still profiting off this fella having repeatedly dived for them? How is that fair? Because they encouraged Young to spend his mid to late 20s collapsing like an epileptic fish? Oh, if Ashley was able to fall normally and not like Bugs Bunny, then Everton would have won 3-2. Leicester 0, Brentford 4. Leicester are awful. This is a club who won a Premier League title less than 10 years ago, and yet this is the worst I have ever seen them in the top flight. It's kind of impressive. My first ever introduction to Leicester City was when they were relegated from the Premier League in 2004. So the fact that 12 years later, I was watching them win the Prem was remarkable. I always compared them to that awful season, and I thought, oh, wow, Leicester are never again going to be as bad as they were in 2004. I was very wrong. Forget about the title. This is just 3 years on from this club having finished 8th in the Premier League and had reached a European semi-final. They were just 1 goal away from a Conference League final with Feyenoord. A battle between Brendan Rodgers and Arne Slot. Liverpool bosses past and future. Yeah, just 3 years later. And they're now worse than they were in 2004. Much worse. Because the Foxes were relegated on 33 points that season. But they showed fight, going 6 games unbeaten in the spring, polishing off the season with just 1 defeat in the final 4 games. And even that was only narrowly losing to Arsenal's Invincibles. And they even took the lead at Highbury. There was fight in that Leicester side. But this team under Ruud van Nistelrooy, they are horrific. That is now 10 defeats in 11 league games. What exactly is Van Nistelrooy doing in a job? It's quite extraordinary. Go back even 4 months ago and compare Van Nistelrooy and Van Persie. Both former unbelievable Dutch goal machines at Old Trafford, now both embarking on a career in management. Which one seemed like the better boss? It wasn't even a question. Van Persie was manager of Heerenveen, losing 9-1 at AZ Alkmaar in September, watching Troy Parrott running riot with Thor. He looked about as much a manager as I do a Japanese lunch lady. Van Nistelrooy, by contrast, did fine as Manchester United interim boss and was getting linked with the Roma job. Ruud was the proper serious manager, whilst Robin was the Wayne Rooney of Dutch management. Yeah, fast forward to the other side of Christmas, and Van Persie is the one who is currently sitting in Arne Slot's former seat, preparing for a Champions League tie with Inter Milan, whilst Van Nistelrooy is looking like one of the worst coaches in Premier League history. He's like what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was at Cardiff. Both former Manchester United goal machines who now cannot manage the way out of a relegation battle. No way. Get Ruud sacked now! Come on, this Leicester board once sacked Rodgers. Yeah, Rodgers nearly dumped Bayern Munich out of the Champions League with Celtic last week, whilst Van Nistelrooy is having the managerial impact of Finding Nemo's corpse. Leicester start building for next season and get Sean Dyche now. Ipswich 1, Tottenham 4. Ipswich are toast. I'm sorry, but it is all sewn up. They are getting relegated. Oh, isn't that cute? No, it's not. It's incredibly dull, boring, predictable. Here they were coming up against a Tottenham side who they'd already beaten this season. And to be fair, the Tractor Boys looked okay in the first half. But I'm sorry, Kieran McKenna cannot organise a Premier League defence. Aston Villa 2, Chelsea 1. This is the game. This was the game which either made or broke my weekend against Mackwell. Because you get 10 points for a correct result, right? He had this game being a 1-1 draw. I said a 2-1 Villa win. I mean, after 88 minutes, it was 1-1. And then Marco Asensio scrambles in his second goal of the game. He strikes it from the edge of the box. And somehow it squirms under Philippe Jorgensen and into the back of the net. Those were 10 points getting ripped out of Mackwell's hands and given to me. Lads, I knew Marco Asensio was an incredible signing, but this winning goal was all about Jorgensen. Given a chance to shine in goal after Robert Sanchez had been rightly dropped. But no, this kid can't seize his chance either. I know he's young, okay? 22 years of age. He's a baby in goalkeeping terms, and he doesn't have a senior international cap yet for either Sweden or Denmark, so he is still a goalkeeping kid. So I'm not gonna sit here and write him off as being some hopeless goalkeeping toad. No, you can't write off a goalie who was born in 2002. He is so young. Horrible mistakes like this are what makes a goalkeeper. Price above, does nobody remember what David De Gea looked like at 22? So Jorgensen might still go on to have a brilliant career, but one thing is for sure, he should not be Chelsea's number 1 now. He's not ready, of course he's not. Just like how Kepa wasn't ready at 23. If Chelsea don't go out there and sign a top quality, then I mean truly top quality goalie this summer, I will no longer understand the world. They need to throw their weight around and buy big. Jordan Pickford has 2 years left on his Everton deal. £50 million bid this summer, now. Man City 0, Liverpool 2. Liverpool are Premier League champs. Well done. You've done it. You've won the league. I thought you would rock up the Etihad and lose, but no. Mackwell, take it away.
It's going to be 3-1. Okay, Man City are going to be wiped off the planet once again. I'm saying Haaland's going to probably score at least 1 goal, because he always does. And then for Liverpool, we'll go Salah, Szoboszlai, and everyone's favorite landlord, Cody Gakpo.
2-goal win with goals from Salah and Szoboszlai. I mean, that Szoboszlai prediction is mega impressive considering that Hungarian pretty boy don't score goals. Lads, Man City are now the worst they have been since they had Claudio Bravo in goals. It looks like watching Man City when they went stale under Pellegrini. Without Erling Haaland, they had nothing, and I repeat, nothing going forward. Sure, Jeremy Doku absolutely ripped Trent Alexander-Arnold apart. Honestly, he smeared the future Real Madrid fullback's reputation across a slice of toast, but it doesn't matter, because Doku has the end product of an empty bowl of muesli. This is a painful low moment for Man City, and it's proof that Kevin De Bruyne is done. It's sad to admit it, but he is. This feels like when Liverpool fans had to watch Steven Gerrard be shockingly average in his final season at Anfield. Come on, in his final match, he was 5-0 down at half-time to Stoke. De Bruyne is in his MLS era, because after 10 full years at Manchester City, his legs have finally gone. As have Gundogan's, as have Bernardo Silva's, as have Jack Grealish's, although some would question whether he ever had legs to begin with. Come on, when a £100 million signing is not coming off the bench and James McAtee is, that shows you this City camp is poisonously old. I don't reckon this Man City team anymore. It's a shadow, a complete shadow of what they once were. Bournemouth 0, Wolves 1. Well, this was just heavily annoying. Just as the football world was finally beginning to catch up on what I've been saying about Andoni Iraola. I mean, Christ above, last week, he was actually linked with the Real Madrid job. I've been saying he's an elite coach for months and months, over years. And I've been saying that a Real Madrid job was one day his future, sure. And you all bizarrely looked at me as if I just said that I fancy Badgers. And, yeah, the guy who everyone tipped to be sacked after 9 winless games last season is being heavily linked to take Carlo Ancelotti's job. One of the goats of the scene. I told you. Didn't I tell you how good he was? No one believed me. So it is really annoying that following that newspaper report, he loses at home to Wolves after the game was ruined by Zabarni's red card. That's annoying. Newcastle 4-0 at Forest 3. Wow, what a first half. Remember when Newcastle walloped Tottenham 6-1? Going 5-0 up after a first half blitz? You had Isak scoring twice in a minute? It all looked very silly. Yeah, same thing happened again. After Callum Hudson-Odoi woke the bear with an early strike, the Magpies went wild and were 4-1 up at half-time with Isak scoring twice in a minute again. He even managed to chip the goalie with a penalty after the goalie stayed on his feet. His Panenka chip sent Matt Sells flying into the back of his net. Just when you thought that Belgian goalie had suffered enough embarrassment at St James's Park after his fairly garbage displays in the Championship 9 years ago. But look, what did Mackwell say would happen in this game?
I'm going 3-0 to Forest on this one. I think they bounce back from their recent result. Chris Wood scores 2, and then Morgan Gibbs-White gets 1 himself.
No, not at all. Nottingham Forest scored 3, sure. But Newcastle got the win. I mean, yes, the Magpies sat back in the second half, but I'm fine with that. Yes, beating Forest 6 or 7-1 would have been cool. But you know what's cooler? Being fresh for a cup final with Liverpool. Fulham 0, Crystal Palace 2. Who cares? Anyway, that's the interview. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. What do you think? What was the craziest result of the weekend? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'll talk to you